Welcome to our Wednesday webinar, everybody. Thank you for joining us. It is the top of the hour, it's 12 o'clock, and this is all about getting started from sitting to strong, and I'm doing this with one of the experts in the game, who's right here next to me, Richard Woolrich. Thank you very much for joining us today. Slightly different. We're not going to bore you guys with a presentation and one-way chat. I'm going to ask a couple of questions of Rich, this is his game. Everything about getting started and getting people moving is what he does for a living. And he's the expert behind our challenge that has just kicked off, which is Zero to Hero, which we'll leave you guys with towards the end. But that's all about getting people moving again. Rich himself is a personal trainer. He works with athletes. He works with corporates. He works with someone who just wants to get off the couch and get going. And he brings a wealth of experience from doing that, having been a triathlete for many years, a professional triathlete at the top of his game. So he knows how to perform, and then he knows how to translate that for you and I who just really want to move and be a little bit healthier. And what we've been looking at and the conversations we've been having when we were designing Zero to Hero as a program was all about getting people moving again, trying to overcome some of the issues of a sedentary life and help us, get up, stop sitting as much. We know some downsides of that. And I thought it was a perfect opportunity to chat to each other and hopefully leave you guys a little bit of insight about getting started and what you can do to perhaps overcome any hurdles or challenges that you might have. So, Richard, thanks very much for joining us today. I think where we're going to start is really right at the top and understanding a little bit about how bad sitting in a sedentary life can be. And for you who've had people walk into your practice and trying to overcome that, what are some of the issues that you're seeing a lot of?
I think for a lot of people, when we're going from a sedentary population, and it's almost people not knowing how to make the first step, literally from sitting in a chair, working, trying to make ends meet, but basically working hard. They've left exercise and movement. And I think we'll keep on using those words, movement, as opposed to just exercise. So also people are put off by the word exercise or, using a word like moving well again, or phrases like moving well again is where we're at. And certainly my headspace has gone nowadays from being very fortunate to work with a lot of very talented athletes that have dedicated their lives to moving well, therefore being able to run well, play ball sports well, to going, well, how do we get the average human being that doesn't have lots of time in the day to work on these things? And what happens is we've got them very lazy, I suppose. Can we use the word lazy maybe? Where we go, cool, I actually just want to get through my day. I want to get through the work, then I've got to get home, then I've got to make dinner, and I've got to look after the kids, and I've got to do homework, and exercises for another day. And we're going to go, well, actually, maybe exercise isn't for another day, but maybe moving well and trying to dedicate a couple of minutes per day to this idea of learning to move well again and bringing back our youth and setting back the clock. And moving well is a very exciting thing. I mean, for people our age that are in our 40s, 30s, it's a wonderful thing to understand that we could probably still move better than we've ever moved in our lives if we dedicate a bit of time to it. But it's also just taking those small steps, one step at a time, into understanding how do I make the first initial move in the right direction. And I think this is what this program brings, is how do I go from doing nothing, how do I get going? The nice thing about this, what I think about this program is, even if you are doing stuff, maybe you are a runner, or maybe you are a soccer player, or you are doing some form of exercise, there's nice elements to this program that can add to these too, that normally a runner, for example, will probably not be doing the mobility and the strength side, but maybe they've got the cardiovascular area taken care of, but there's a lot they can add to their plan and their weekly routines.
I think a couple of things that we'll dig into there, which kind of made me think a little bit. And also going to encourage you guys to ask some questions as we go through here. You'll see we also just stuck a little poll up, which you can give us a little bit of insight into what you think your biggest challenges are and the hurdles to exercising consistently. And you've mentioned one of them. I'm just going to ask you a little bit about aging in a second, but just to see, it seems like lack of time is the primary hurdle. I know we see that with people using Strava and the app. And from my side, where my expertise and focus is a lot on the nutritional aspect, time is always a hurdle. For someone coming into, to you, work with you, and you think about this program that we've developed, how often do you see time being that, and how easy is that to overcome?
No, I think once again, it is without a doubt, because we're all busy. We've all got so many things, and we often put our health aside because we're trying so badly to cope with life. And I think understanding that to start this journey, and I love the word journey because it is such an important idea to feel that you're going to start from A and move through on this journey. And it's very small bits of time, but the idea is to do little bits of it on a relatively frequent occasion. So, for example, if we're going to talking about your day, how do you start your day with a little bit of movement? And we're using the word movement, we're not using the word exercise. So understand that maybe you can do 5 different movements once you've just woken up. Remember the good old days, you saw this advert of the person climbing out of their bed and they're stretching out, but they're taking their body through range of motion. And maybe you take your body through a specific range of motion 5 times at the start of your day. And that took you literally 10 seconds. But the fact that there was a mental attitude towards, I want to start improving the way my body moves, then you go, cool, actually, now I'm going to go brush my teeth. And you've probably got hopefully close to 2 minutes available for that, where you're going to go, cool, I'm actually going to work on a little bit of balance. And I'm going to stand on one leg while I brush my teeth for 1 minute, and I'm going to stand on the other leg for the other minute. So now you've worked into range of motion 5 times. It took you about 10 seconds, and you worked on a bit of balance for 2 minutes while you're doing something else. And all of a sudden, there's an attitude towards, I'm going to start improving. Then we go one slightly, just a small step further. You go, well, actually, there's a great 21-day program. And there's a 4-minute mobility routine that you could do on your Monday morning. It's been a busy weekend. You've maybe been painting or you've been carrying stuff and you're a little bit stiff and tight, and that maybe a 4-minute mobility routine first thing on your Monday morning, exactly what your body needs to, first of all, just get your headspace in the right place, get your body moving, create a little bit of range of motion in your muscles, spark your metabolism a little bit. But also, once again, it's that headspace around, I'm going to make little changes to my lifestyle to help improve how I move. And also, once again, that you be the best parent you can be to your kids. Because you want to be that parent that can throw a ball with them or take them for a walk around the block. But it is all about headspace and that small little stepping stones and the momentum you get from that from day one on Monday, that you've chosen to do 3 little things or 1 little thing.
It's really, you said just getting started, and it's the small steps that kind of build up to that. I saw sort of the second most common thing here was that there's a lack of motivation being an issue that stands in the way of consistency. And you touched on parenthood, for example, and the upside of exercising. And there are a number of different things. And I think quite often when we've got this health journey, and I also like the fact that you call it a journey and it's something that you're going to progress along, but how important it is to find something that's going to motivate you. Might be intrinsic, it might be extrinsic, or it might be a number on a scale, whatever. I quite often find that the way you feel or something that you're able to do is a much more powerful motivator. Where having worked with guys, and it's about improving your life so that you can see your kids get a bit older, you can run around the block with them or keep up with them. Do you think it's quite important that when you're starting a journey, you've got this goal, this motivator that you might write down, you might stick it on the fridge? Are there any little things there that you've worked with your clients on?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that often motivate people on whether it's coming from a genuine injury background or they trying to get the journey going is a lot of people often will go, I feel a little bit uncomfortable in my body. So I think the goal, and certainly when I had this in mind when I was working on this plan, was to go, well, how do we help reduce the little niggles that we all have in our bodies? You know, when you wake up in the morning, you go, well, I've got a bit of a stiff neck, and maybe it was from sitting behind a computer for too long. So we worked hard on a little bit of rotation, stretching out the chest muscles. So it's about, my first goal and motivation for most people would be, get your body moving, that when you wake up on a particular morning, you wake up and go, wow, I actually feel quite good. And that then in turn, I think, mentally changes the whole outlook of the rest of the day. And you're gonna thrive through your day versus survive, which we often do try and do. But I think that the thriving and getting the motivation going by being pain-free, niggle-free, and by doing a simple 4-minute workout first thing, or like a mobility routine first thing in the morning, will spark the energy levels. And that people are amazed, like, how do I have more energy after I've exercised? Surely I've used energy, I'll have less. But you're the expert on metabolism, but how you just kickstart and stoke the fire and get this internal motivation going by doing subtle small things like a little 4-minute routine is incredible. I think each person is different with regards to motivation. And I think if you do feel that, and I think everyone's got to maybe sit down and have an honest look at themselves and go, well, what do I see myself? Do I want to carry on this pathway? Do I really want to change that pathway? And why do I want to change it? Is it? And I think the kids is a huge overwhelming factor that you want to be there to get up and down off the floor, pain-free or niggle-free, or feel comfortable doing that, to go and play or build a puzzle on the floor. Do you want to be in the garden to throw a ball around in the garden then without your shoulder feeling sore? Do you want to kick a soccer ball? Do you want to go for a little walk, jog around but your ankles feel sore? And often, because you know those are going to be sore, you don't do it. But go, well, what are your kids interested in? And how do you start moving better so that you can become more involved in their sport? It's a great example. I think being fathers, we know how much we love wanting to get involved. In fact, it brings me back to my childhood, and we want to bowl the cricket ball around and hit the cricket ball like these youngsters do. Exactly. And you watch how a youngster moves, you go, I want to be like that. And that's our plan. We want to turn back the clock and make us feel awesome again.
And is aging as much of a hurdle as perhaps we put in our minds? Is there anything stopping us? Like I said, you and I are on the other side of 40 now. I'm sure a lot of people here as well. But do we use that as an excuse a little bit too much?
I think so, because it's an easy cop-out. And once again, I go back into I'm working so hard, and I've got to be careful. I don't want to hurt myself. So I think with age comes that phrase a lot more. I've got to be careful. I don't want to hurt myself. And I think this is exactly what we're trying to do. Going, well, this is a pretty safe environment. Once again, we've got to always be careful with our stepping stones, and this is what this plan is enabling people to do, is take safe stepping stones in the right direction. But age is something that we can, particularly if you are coming from a relatively sedentary background, it's very exciting to know that you can feel significantly better if you can get the wheels turning in the right direction and feel awesome. Hit the dance floor. Like hit the dance floor and hit the moves you haven't hit in ages, because you just feel good.
Obviously, we've mentioned aging as one thing. It might be sedentary as another. There might be injuries and niggles that many people feel. For someone who's starting out, obviously there's some standard sort of health questions we'd ask ourselves about, whether it is safe to exercise, if there are any contraindications, if there's anything. So anything I should be, the first time exerciser thinking about, chatting to a doctor before doing something, or if I've got a struggle with a specific movement or something that's niggling, what should I be going through instead of just pushing through?
Yeah. It's a tough one to tell people, like, what is a good pain, what is a bad pain. But I think the key is that if you felt that you've been struggling with a particular joint that has plagued you for a period of time, this plan is certainly not there as a rehabilitation plan. It's there to get you moving. I think the key is to understand that maybe if you're a little bit stiff in the body, this is going to be exactly what you need. But then obviously the idea would be, cool, you want to commence a plan like this. Maybe there's the opportunity to go and see either maybe a physiotherapist we can hopefully help diagnose what your problem is, or a sports doctor of sorts, just so they can go, okay, no, I understand what you're doing, and this is going to be exactly what you need. Because a lot of pain and discomfort can come right from just learning to move well again, and helping ensure that niggly shoulder you have is only because your back muscles are weak and they're long, but they've got no strength in them again, and you're very tight in the front of your body because you've been sitting in this posture for years now, that the niggle you have in your shoulder will actually maybe start improving just because you're showing it some attention. Like I always talk about range of motion in the body is like a ruck, and the rugby ball in a ruck, that you don't use it, you lose it. And it's the same with range of motion in your muscles. So learning to move again will help take care of a lot of discomfort that you have in your body. So remember, if it's a soft tissue, so muscular stuff, often that will come right with movement. If it's significant and quite sharp pain, then I would definitely go look for the okay from a doctor or physiotherapist, and they can also guide you which movements maybe you're going to look at, maybe avoiding, or what you can add. And they'll probably go, oh, this is a great movement, and add that to your plan. But once again, it's a stepping stone to moving well. But without a doubt, in a perfect world, you would like to go and get an okay from a doctor or physio if you do have any sharpness in any areas of your body. Stiffness or tightness you can probably work through to some degree, but just bearing in mind that if it's painful on a regular basis, then it's also something to be aware of. And remember, also exercise with what you have in mind is, how am I going to feel the next day? So just because you started day one of this, don't go and completely try and bombard yourself and you're going to do our routine and then, you've got the bit between the teeth. Now I'm actually also going to go for a 5K around the block, and I'm actually going to do that routine again tonight because I loved it so much. Maybe that's a bit too much. So just your stepping stones, and what we progressed this at a very gentle but appropriate pace to try and get the body moving well. But I'd say, once again, always look after the body, and if you're not sure, go and have yourself checked out by a professional.
I think trusting the process there is a good kind of segue into the next bit, but it's, making sure you aren't doing too much, because as soon as we do overcome the motivation, that's sometimes an issue. We then think, well, now I'm going to do it all.
Yeah.
And it's actually additional stress that we're putting on our body, and at the same time, maybe you're changing your diet and you've gone from this to something that's completely different, and you're actually just trying to do too much at once. And the biggest kind of risk to failure is doing it.
Yeah.
Setting up that pedestal that you can't actually keep consistent and achieve with. So starting something new, whether it be exercise, nutrition, starting baby steps. It doesn't have to be the ultimate thing. The goal with our program that we've designed is also taking 3 weeks to get to a point where you're doing a decent amount of movement that's going to support your goals and your health, and achieving what WHO and we support with 150 minutes of exercise a week, broken up into some different things: strength, cardio, and mobility. And I think what's great about what you have designed here, and we'll talk about this a little bit as you're sort of focused on, I suppose, general health and wellness, those 3 elements. Are each of them as important? Why would we have strength, mobility, and cardio? Why do we look at all 3 of those aspects?
Yeah. I mean, there's been a big trend worldwide now that people are becoming more aware that strength is a hugely important pillar in the 3 pillars of ultimate wellness. And I think strength plays a major role, because for you to do the cardiovascular stuff, to do all the other movements that you want to do, you've got to have a bit of strength supporting each joint in our body. And particularly, I see a lot of people that have hips and knees and ankles, because they've been doing this huge amount of running, but they've never created this muscular strength around each joint. So the strength has played a major role. I mean, there's one of the leading guys at the moment called Dr. Peter Attia, who's made strength sort of everyone's key word, and we've moved away from cardio a little bit and really focused on strength. And I think that's quite key in our plan as well, that teaching people to build strength in their bodies is key. Therefore, it allows you to do cardio. The cardio doesn't always necessarily allow you to do the strength. So I think it's understanding that by mixing it up and blending all 3, and then you go adding the mobility in, to be able to do strength work in a full range of motion and not be inhibited by pain, allows you to do strength more effectively too. And it's this combination of how the one knocks onto the other. Because if you have a nice bit of cardiovascular background, you're not completely stuffed by doing a handful of press ups. So the one affects the other, and so on and so on and so on. And the three working together will give you this ability to have good heart health. So you have this, you're developing this engine that can pump blood effectively around your body. You have this lovely strength in your glutes, your hammies, your quad muscles, and also the program is also designed to help reduce the weakness in the areas that in the muscles that aren't working when we're sitting every day. So we're building the muscles that are not being utilized often. We're building that strength, so that lower back pain and all those little niggly tight spots hopefully will reduce and you feel good. And therefore, because you feel good, you go, well, actually, I am going to go for a brisk walk or break into a light little jog. So the one leads to the other. Mobility is a very exciting area that hasn't necessarily been touched on by many people. Go, I'm actually going to dedicate 5 minutes of my morning or 10 minutes of my morning to mobility. But it's quite a wonderful thing to explore, and it's the opportunity for everyone to move better than they've moved in many years. It's quite exciting, actually.
If you think sort of sitting and sedentary life negatively affects each of those three things, obviously you aren't getting the cardiovascular fitness, and that's what the cardio is focusing on. Your strength and your mobility is specifically going to be impacted by sitting. You mentioned the areas that are impacted by that. From someone who's sedentary or sitting a lot, what are the common issues? What are the things we try to overcome and fix to move better?
Yeah. I mean, a perfect example is right now, if we all imagine, and I'm sure most people that are on this now, we're all sitting and we all have our knees bent. Okay. And then with our knees bent, that means that our hamstring muscle is actually sitting in the shortened position. So now you can imagine you've been sitting at your desk, your hamstring's been in a shortened position all day. And now we're going to get up and we want to move, and I'm going to actually go and kick a soccer ball with one of my kids in the garden. And as you lengthen your leg to kick the ball, your hamstring has to lengthen. Next minute you kick the ball, that's all you're trying to do is kick a ball, and you feel you've just tweaked your hamstring because the hamstring's been in short all day. And remember, our bodies adapt to what we do, which is good because if we start doing movement, it will adapt to that. The problem is if you're not moving, your body adapts to doing that. So you end up with typically short, weak hamstrings, for example. And I've alluded to this already. The shoulders become tight, okay? And our back muscles become lengthened. So we sit in there, this rounded, we have quite poor posture, but sitting upright, tall, and proud will make our bodies move well. So being aware that strengthening muscles that are short and weak and strengthening muscles is going to be a huge component of one thing. Just feeling that you're going to move well is going to reduce your chance of injury, which is also an asset. Like we also want you to reduce any chances you bend over quickly to pick something up and go, oh, I've tweaked my hammy. And that's just purely because they're not used to it. You want to pick something up off the floor and you go, oh, I've done something in my back because you didn't drive out of your legs. And so reducing injuries also, I mean, we haven't even touched on that, but reducing your chance of injury is quite an important aspect of building a little bit of strength into your everyday life. You know?
And well, let's go into that. The role of sort of strength and mobility. What are the common injuries that you often see for people who are just starting out?
Yeah.
And what do you focus on to prevent that from the three elements?
Yeah. So I think obviously for a lot of people, lower backs are often, and it's not necessarily related to a big problematic disc problem in their backs. It's often due to those muscles just being very underactive, underengaged, weak, and also people have just been completely unaware of it. And therefore, and people go, oh, I don't want to do that, so I'm worried I'm going to hurt my back. But teaching people to start building and strengthening up their posterior chain. The posterior chain is the back of the body. So from the calves, hamstrings, buttocks, and there's a lot of emphasis in rehabilitation programs or prehab programs on building strength in that posterior chain and particularly focusing on the buttocks. So not only if you did this program would you have great buttocks, but you'll also reduce the chances of having those injuries that come, or those problem areas that often pop up. So developing strength in that posterior chain is key to us. The other big one is shoulders. So and that's why I've mentioned it a few times. But shoulders, and lower back are probably the two big hotspots for people. And in this plan, we've worked on those will be a couple of the key areas we're really focusing on. And they'll probably overlap if you did go to a physio or bio to help with some rehabilitation. Because you've got an injury, a lot of our exercises overlap, and we'll be working on opening up your hips because they're tight from sitting, getting your hips moving nicely, getting your buttocks switched on, and just learning to carry yourself well and teaching your brain how to switch on the muscles again that have become maybe just lethargic and lazy. And we've come up with a way to, we only like to use our thigh muscles. So we use our quads all the time, and then all of a sudden our knees are sore. So I'm going to add to that now. Lower back, shoulders, and knees are probably your three hot spots. But moving consistently well will often just take care of all of those.
And consistency, I think that there's something that's come up a few times as we've been chatting here. But also, if you think about being sedentary and then not, and all the benefits of being strong and mobile, and what that apex of wellness might look like. For some of us, it might feel like quite a long way away. So without setting that bar too far and knowing, well, this is how much I have to do to get there. How effective are small little doses of this? Can I just do 4 or 5 minutes and build that up? Or do I really have to be shooting for this long-term big number and big sort of frequency of exercise to actually see a benefit?
Yeah. I think the key is, and the exciting thing is that the body will adapt quite quickly to some consistency. And that consistency of small amounts of exercise is quite exciting. So you will feel a change in your body, and you will feel it quite early. And what happens is you'll get this lovely little spike and go, wow, I'm starting to feel good and things are moving well. Then there will be that moment where your body starts going, oh, I'm just going to plateau a little bit. And that's when you got to look at, well, could I look at modifying and increasing my exercise routines, my movement patterns? And you can choose which one you might feel you enjoy more. So I think that's key as well. You've got to, it's not just a 21-day program. It's the stepping stones. And once you've done 21 days, you're going to start it again, or you can add to it. But the key is that maybe modifying your exercise routine as you go and coming up with the exercise that you really enjoy and looking at blending what you need and what you like doing into a nice routine. But the key is little bits, frequency. So frequency of movement is huge. And just so much as standing up and sitting back down again in your chair is a great way to go, I'm actually going to break up my daily routine. And I'm going to sit and stand 10 times today. I've never done it before in my life, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to walk to the bathroom more regularly. I'm actually going to get up and I'm going to walk and have a glass of water and all these sorts of things. So getting up and walking and upping your step count, and we've mentioned that in the challenge, that step count is key to us because step count doesn't have to be done 8,000 steps in one go, but multiple. I'm going to add another 200 steps to my, half an hour later, I'm going to add another 200 steps. 45 minutes, I'm going to add another 200 steps. So the frequency in building that up is key. And also takes the pressure of going, at the end of the day, I need to quickly go through 8,000 steps. So I think frequency, the body likes moving, so move it as often as you can for a little bit and keep adding to that. And you'll see that all of a sudden your goals will change. And that's the key. Your goals will change as you start moving better because you're wanting to keep moving better and better. And what's our ceiling? Well, we don't know.
As we move towards wrapping up here, guys, if you've got any questions, please pop them into the chat. You would have seen there was another poll that I sent in there. We're talking about cardio, strength, and mobility, and which of these you guys are most likely to start with. And interestingly, over half of our respondents have said mobility, which I don't know if I would have predicted that one, but great to hear. If you had to rank something, and it might be a bit unfair because you just said how important all three of these were. But if you had someone walk into your office and say, all right, well, what's the one thing I just need to improve so that the rest will also get easier for me? Which would it be?
Well, now that you guys said mobility, I guess it'll have to be mobility. No, I mean, it is a really tough one. But understanding that often our muscles are tight because they haven't been exercised. Mobility is going to create a range of motion into our muscles, which is what we want, but so does strength work. If you're exercising effectively, you are going to get nice range of motion into the muscles. By building strength in the muscles and exercising effectively, you might not necessarily need to do as much mobility. So it's one thing, it's a tough one, but I think the key for me is as long as you start doing one of them, and really by doing these mobility routines, by holding your body weight and going into a child's pose and rocking backwards and forwards into a cobra, you are doing some form of actual strength work. You are holding your body weight up. So there is an element of strength in that. People go strength and they think, oh, I must be lifting heavy dumbbells. But just holding your body weight and moving it from one position to another is strength anyway. So we say mobility, but there is strength in mobility. And by doing strength work effectively, you actually are working on your mobility too. So they overlap nicely, but the one maybe is slightly more focused on strength, the other was more focused on creating nice full range of motion into your muscles. But mobility is probably a nice stepping stone to the journey and prepping your body for moving well.
And so much of it, it's about function. Both we think about strength and mobility, and it's really about, it's a skill and it's a function that your body's going to learn. And I think Richard's kind of put that across quite well in terms of your body adapts, it learns. And as you're practicing these things, it's going to be a bit better. It's going to become easier.
Yeah.
And I think, just to round it all up into what the 0 to Hero 21-day challenge we've built at Strode, and you guys will be in day 3 at the moment. And it is all about that sort of bite-sized, consistent habit. And Richard designed it to touch on all 3 of those, a bit of cardio, a bit of mobility, a bit of strength. None of it involves weight.
Yeah.
You mentioned that quite nicely as well. Just being strong can be about moving your body in the right range, about controlling your body's strength, and using that as the resistance for movement. And it doesn't have to be fancy. I think we are winning if we are moving more. So if we can see guys, getting up towards the 10,000 steps a day, if we can see us achieving, 150 minutes of easy exercise throughout the week, we're moving more, we're sitting less, we're able to, learn how to move a little bit better, and we stick that against whatever goal that might be, whatever's going to make you feel better, whatever's going to, keep you motivated towards moving towards that, I think is critical. So there was just Emma wants some free in-office massages. I think that's specifically my content from you, Rich.
No. I think with your fancy haircut, she probably.
So, but in massage,
yeah,
is there anything there? Sort of, we speak about sort of stiffness and moving, and there's stretching and mobility is one of them. But manipulation, does it help much?
Yeah, I think once again, just quickly on that often remember a muscle that is tight once again. So you go, oh, geez, I've got a stiff neck. I could do with a massage. There's a couple of things we can do. And one of them is gentle stretching. Maybe a muscle that is tight and is probably in spasm because it's probably overworked or been in a lengthened position for too long. So we can either look at creating a little bit of blood flow in it ourselves. That's what massage is doing. It's creating blood flow. Blood flow creates energy and nutrient getting pumped to the area. And the muscle will then be warm as well. So a muscle that is warm will move better. So by stretching it gently, by moving it in a strength workout, not with too much load though, will also increase blood flow. So the good news is if you are stiff and tight, stretching or taking your body through a range of motion in a mobility routine, by doing strength work, by even doing a nice walk and just breathing in the fresh air, will also help reduce the tightness in your body. It always does. We're always tight the first thing in the morning. As the day goes on, we loosen up because of increased blood flow. So instead of a massage, I would go and exercise.
Brilliant. Keep moving. How does a heart rate monitor aid training? Is it necessary to have a heart rate monitor? Are there other ways that you can understand sort of how much your body's doing or intensity or anything like that?
I mean, the key for me with a lot of my clients don't use heart rate monitors. Sometimes it's nice. I was a professional athlete. I used to have a heart rate monitor, but I actually most of the time went on what's called rate of perceived exertion. So your RPE. And a very simple way of doing it, you go, okay, as I'm walking, I want to walk at a 6 out of 10 effort. So your rate of perceived exertion is a 6, and you monitor that. And if you then honestly say to yourself, I'm going at a 6 out of 10, and you happen to have a heart rate monitor on, odds are your heart rate would have said you were close to 60% of your max heart rate. So there's a lot of research around RPE and how it's a great guide with regards to intensity. And even so much as if you were doing a press-ups. And you're doing your modified press-ups on your knees, hands on the step, and you're doing it. And at the end of that, you can ask yourself, what was my effort? How hard did I go to achieve and finish my press-ups in my 30 seconds? And at the end of that, I got to an 8 out of 10. You go, oh, cool. 8 out of 10 was quite a hard effort, but it was probably close to 80% of my max. Hence, I probably could have done a couple more reps. So the rated perceived exertion is a great tool to use for guiding intensity of exercise. Heart rate monitors are nice, but I've always combined heart rate with rated perceived exertion. So it is a nice value add. It's always nice to look at numbers straight away, and that reinforces, boom, okay, cool. My heart rate at 60% should have been 120, and I was 122, so I was spot on. But rated perceived exertion is a great tool.
And in the cardio sort of components of the program you built for us, that's what you focused on. And I think it's also what's important with that. So it's not about going 8 or 9 out of 10 when you're trying to build that base. It's also finding where that sort of, the 6s and 7s are that you've
Absolutely.
Because it's not about just going as hard as you can.
Yeah. And one thing I think this program, it's not about trying to achieve your ultimate goal in the next week.
Yeah.
And remember, this is key. I like to think of exercise, it's our journey, it's our long-term journey. It's about making sure we're not just going to play well with our kids now, we're going to play well with our grandchildren. And one thing, one of these very well-known doctors at the moment, basically, is one phrase he said was, the best indicator of how well we're going to move at 70 is how well we move at 60. And how well do we move at 60 dictates about how well we move at 50. So the key is, one thing, that we're in this for the long haul. And the key is to understand that you don't want to go hell for leather in your first week. Go, geez, the mobility is great, the strength, I'm so pumped, and I'm going to go run down the road, and oh, I've just done my Achilles. So I think the key is to, once again, I say, understand that we're in this for the long haul, because we're here for a long time, and we want to make sure we live our best life. I think, I say, it's a very exciting journey. I used to work with professional athletes a lot, only professional athletes, and we're looking at very small percentages of improvements. When I've moved now to different populations and working on teaching people to move well again, the change and the percentage of improvement we get is huge. And once again, that is what we're after. And that takes a long time. So to think about, if you were sitting at your desk and you've been sitting at your desk for 20 years working your butts off, how long is it going to take to undo 20 years of bad habits? Well, it's not, unfortunately, going to take a week. It's going to take a while. So you've got to be patient, but enjoy that. And just take those moments when you are in a press up and go, oh, after week 1, you go, actually, I think I can feel I'm already a bit better, and I feel the movements, and I'm enjoying my body moving well. And that's what we're going to go. And each time you do it, it's better, improving the smoothness of movement, improving the amount that we do, and everything. I say, moving well is incredibly exciting, and I'm very passionate about it.
And we all the better for it as well. We'll get one last question in here just before we wrap up. I appreciate we've gone a little bit longer, but we've been listening to some great insights. So, Valapi, you do cycling and running back to back. At times I feel that the muscles are tired. How do I recover without using a supplement? I do have a rest day in my training schedule. Is that enough? So perhaps a little bit hard to get into too much personal sort of information there without knowing more about you. But I think it's a good opportunity just to wrap up here with the importance of rest and load. If you're doing too much, if you're struggling with energy and fatigue, can that be a sign that you need a bit of a break?
Absolutely. I think rest is one thing, and it's the key that we haven't really spoken about much, but understanding that, first of all, don't use the word rest when you're trying to get an exercise routine going, oh, I've had 3 busy days at work, I need to rest. But once again, the other extreme, when you're cycling and you're running, having a rest day is key. And your body has to rebuild the damage we've caused on our muscles. So that's what we're doing with the exercise, understanding that strength work, we create little tears in our muscles. This is what we want. And our bodies, once again, we use the word adapt again. The body rebuilds by eating a good diet, a great diet, and rebuilds those bridges that we've broken down. They become slightly bigger, slightly stronger, and more resilient to the load. And that only happens by resting. And that often happens at night when we're sleeping. So that's on a daily basis, but on a weekly basis, having a genuine rest day. Or people talk about active rest days. And an active rest day nowadays could be doing a mobility routine for someone that likes to exercise 2 hours a day. Having a full rest day on a Monday maybe, and on a Friday doing a mobility routine. So you're in theory doing 2 rest days, but you're just working on range of motion in the muscles.
Brilliant. Richard, thank you so much. Everyone who's joined us, thanks a lot for your time and interest and for hanging in there with us. If you want to know a little bit more about our 21-day program that we built to get people moving and do these things that we've been chatting about, you can find it in Strove. I think there's Emma asking about stretching exercises. There's mobility work in there. Across the content in app, there's a variety of things to help you move a little bit better. Richard, thank you very much for your time today and for your expertise in helping us build something that's hopefully going to have an impact on many of you all. Have a good day, guys. We will see you all again in 2 weeks with our next webinar, which is all on nutrition in menopause. See you guys then. Have a good day.